I'm Sam from Cultaholic Wrestling, and this is Graded for Friday Night SmackDown, where I take a look at the show segment by segment and award each a bit of grade from A+ to F. So we're hot on the heels of the Royal Rumble. There was a lot that happened there, and there's going to be a lot of setup, of course, and fallout on SmackDown this week. So without any further ado, let's crack on with it. Hit the intro. There is a cold open title card this week in memory of the natural Butch Reed, who passed away this week. Reed was a pioneering star in the late 80s and early 90s in both WWE and WCW, and our condolences go out to his family. But we kick off SmackDown this week with a promo from Roman Reigns, and down he comes to the ring with Paul Heyman and Jey Uso in tow. Roman says that he beat Kevin Owens, and apparently his future is Edge, because Edge won the Royal Rumble and Roman is the top dog, so of course Edge is going to choose Roman, for the match at WrestleMania. However, Edge isn't anywhere to be seen, and he runs Edge down for making him wait, for being late, and just generally for not being there. And Heyman then goes over to the timekeeper and he's like, "Come on, Edge, hit Edge's music, get Edge out." The timekeeper comes up and he's like, he's not here. Roman, when he finds this out, absolutely explodes. He asks why Edge is playing games with him. He threatens to do the same to Edge as he did to Owens if he doesn't hurry up and get down here. Roman then just looks into the hard camera, tells Edge that he expects a decision by the end of tonight, and walks off. And this one gets an A. We've seen Roman's mask slip a little bit more and more each week, haven't we? But here it was incredibly pronounced, and the way when he just exploded, it came from nowhere, as it has done the last couple of times. But Heyman and Jey both just jumped, like they're used to that. They're used to that sort of behavior. It's like Heyman was sort of as well afterwards, kind of put his arm out as if to like, just don't show people that side of you, Roman. Commentary as well played up Edge's history of, using mind games and said this may be what's happening here. We then go to our first matchup of the night, which is King Corbin versus Dominik Mysterio. Dominic makes his entrance first with Rey, and Corbin attacks him from behind, attacks both of them from behind, launches Rey off the stage, and if you ask me, he's allowed to do that. Dominic jumped him last week like a little cretin. When we come back from the break though, Dominic is just swatting Corbin all around the ring and really bringing the pace. But then Corbin gets control and he starts hurling Dominic around the ring. He's just laying in elbows, working the neck, running his mouth, grinding him down. By this point, Rey's back to his feet. Dominic manages to escape from a vertical suplex attempt. He even manages to backflip out of a choke slam. I don't know how he even managed that. However, throughout the match, we've had Corbin dumped to the outside. This time he's sent into the announce table, and then things get a little bit weird. So Rey is on the outside cheering on his son, and then all of a sudden he's missing. Where's he gone? Oh, he's under the ring. So Corbin's climbing back into the ring. Rey pops out and grabs his leg, and this allows Dominic to hit a 619 on him, drag him back into the ring, hit the splash, and pick up the win. However, I'm not quite sure here whether Dominic is aware that the win came via Rey's interference. There was no acknowledgement, and while Dominic went on the outside to the apron, he didn't look down and go, "Thanks, Dad," and Rey go, "That's okay." Now, I'm going to give this a B- here, and as I said, it could be quite interesting if Rey has done this to spare his son's feelings and Dominic is unaware of it, because Dominic is desperate to beat Corbin. This is the third match in their little feud they've got going. If Dominic was indeed unaware of it, then we're probably going to get a little bit of a family rift here. I don't know what's going to happen at that point. So then we go to a Big E interview backstage, and Kayla asks him about his matchup tonight, the triple threat match for the IC title, where he's going to defend his belt against Sami Zayn and Apollo Crews. He responds in the way that only Big E can respond and finishes off by saying that they're not ready for him. And then we go to Daniel Bryan versus Cesaro, and both men are just going back and forward at the opener of this one, with Cesaro getting dumped out to the floor. However, after Bryan hits a dive and gets back in the ring, the tide kind of turns. Cesaro really starts to bring the power, and he's obviously got a size advantage as well, so Bryan is very much on the back foot trying to evade him. I'm not sure when it happened either. It might have happened when he was thrown to the outside, but now back in the ring, Cesaro has blood coming from his temple. Bryan then immediately forces him down into a yes lock, but Cesaro is able to escape. However, it looks like Bryan has done his homework, because he cuts off a corkscrew uppercut off the ropes with just a blunt kick to the neck, and then he just starts stamping on Cesaro's head. He lines stands up for the running knee though, only to get caught into a torture rack position and then dropped over the knee with a massive backbreaker. A pretty aggressive swing then follows, and it's rolled through into a sharpshooter, and Daniel Bryan taps, the master of submission, taps to the sharpshooter from Cesaro. What a result here for Cesaro. Again, as I said, beating Bryan at his own game, and after the bell, he goes up to Bryan. There's a little bit of a tense stare down. Bryan's in the corner, and he just puts his fist out, and they have a little bit of a fist bump. So maybe Cesaro, maybe he's not going to be that bad after all. So I'm going to give this one a B+, just overcoming the odds here for Cesaro, doing it with the cut on his head and bleeding and looking like $1 million in the process. Just a solid match. Can't wait to see what lies in the future for these two. We then go to a backstage interview with Bianca Belair, and Kayla asks her about her parents' reaction to her Royal Rumble win. And then we see a nice little bit of footage from Instagram with Bianca Belair's parents watching live, celebrating. When she wins, her dad jumps up on the coffee table and he's cheering, and it cuts to a little bit later in the video and he's still cheering, and he climbs back over the back of the couch, but it's a recliner couch, so he's just climbing back to sit down. The back gives way and he just goes whoop, completely out of frame. It was brilliant. Kayla then asks who Belair is planning on facing at WrestleMania, and Belair's like, you know what, I'll have made my decision soon. And then she walks off, and we get a little trailer hyping the return of Seth Rollins next week. We then go to Ruby Riott versus Bayley. Liv Morgan, of course, on the outside, and curiously, Billie Kay at commentary. And she's denying, when commentary are asking her about it, she's denying that she was asked to, stop hovering around the squad. And Bayley is just so aggressive here coming into this one, just driving Ruby into the corner, running her mouth. Ruby tries to put some distance between them. Bayley just turns the tide back on her, straight back into the corner, planting her face first against the top turnbuckle pad. Now, commentary are playing up that Ruby Riott has had problems with her shoulders before, and Bayley is just retching at them the entire time. So Ruby is having a very difficult time, dealing with that. There's some more back and forth, but again, Bayley goes down for the shoulder and just starts really, really wrenching it back. And then Billie Kay just stands up. She's just like, no, gotta go help. She goes, tries to climb into the ring. Liv Morgan pulls her away. She's like, no, what are you doing? You can't be doing this. This is, crap. No, stop it. And then Ruby is able to actually roll herself out of the maneuver. However, even though Ruby did manage to escape, and it was kind of like a, yes, see, Billy, see, we don't need your help. Ruby can do it. Don't get the match disqualified. Ruby just eats a rose plant and loses. Post-bell as well, and I should probably mention this was kind of touched on commentary by, I think, Corey Graves. He was like, Billy, have you ever thought about teaming with Bayley? You're both former women's tag champions. It might quite work out. And she seems to be pretty interested. She's like, well, I've thought about it before, and clearly this is like a new idea for her. Post-bell, she runs up to Bayley with a copy of her CV before we cut away. This one gets a C+. Bayley got a pretty definitive win here, and I like that we're at least nurturing this story a little bit rather than canning it all together. And Ruby, while losing it here, still brought it as hard as she possibly could, considering that her shoulders were getting worked over as bad as they were. And then next, it's Bianca Belair's decision. She comes down to the ring, and she just sort of takes everything in for a moment. She says her life has changed overnight since winning the Rumble, and she gives props to both of the current main roster champions. She's then cut off by Reginald, who's like, you're not going to beat Sasha, so you shouldn't even try. You probably couldn't even beat Carmella. And then out Carmella comes, and boy, she does not look happy with Reggie. Carmella insinuates that Reggie's sort of getting a bit above his station. She doesn't know why he came out there, but whatever, okay. She's in the ring, she runs Belair down a little bit, and then out comes Banks. So Sasha gives props to Belair. She says that she's been keeping a close eye on her, but if you're gonna choose me, then choose me. And then as the words are about to leave Belair's mouth, Reggie once again jumps in. Belair again looks annoyed because Reggie sort of steps around from behind her, and she'd sort of brushed him off to the side earlier in the promo. Belair, however, takes one look at Reggie, grabs her hair, and just starts absolutely whipping him to the point where he's out on the floor on the outside. I'm going to give this one a B. Belair has come so far in such a short space of time that it's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. She's of course probably going to go for Sasha because the words were about to leave her mouth. She's also on SmackDown. SmackDown champion is Sasha, and it would all just tie up quite nicely. So please, I really want to see that match. It'll be amazing. But yeah, I mean, Christ, Sasha in the veteran role. Like, I keep saying this, but I'm getting old now and time is moving too fast. It's just Sasha's like Oh God, like I still in my head, it feels like they're like the new crop of stars. I don't know. I'm getting old. Real quick here as well, and it's so quick I'm not going to show a picture. We go backstage to Roman's dressing room, and Heyman confirms to Roman that Edge is now in the building. We go backstage to a Sami Zayn interview, and Kayla asks him about being a thorn in everybody else's side, and he calls her a propagandist and promises that tonight he will reclaim his title in full view of his documentary crew. We then go to Otis and Gable versus Rugler, and Rugler have their own bloody theme. They've got their own theme. They've stopped doing the stop-start music for them. They're a real team at long last. So Gable and Ziggler are going back and forth, and then up pop the Street Profits in like a little picture-in-picture box in the corner, just like down here off to the side of the screen. And then, oh God, it just becomes so overwhelming. So Roode and Ziggler trap Gable in the corner and just start working him over. And then at one point, we just go to a full screenshot of the Street Profits commentating the match before we come back and Otis has got the hot tag. Otis absolutely clears house and then hits the Caterpillar, even though Gable's like, don't do it. And then after the Caterpillar, Gable, of course, needs to get his tag so he can get the win. However, this, of course, backfires as Ziggler takes care of Otis on the outside, and Roode in the confusion, like, because Gable has to kind of jostle with Ziggler a little bit, Roode is able to grab Gable in the confusion, hit a glorious DDT, and pick up the win. Now I'm going to give this a C-, and I will ask you nicely, like, I love the Street Profits, I really do, but that was so intense. We've got, it opens with Cole and Graves, and then we've got the match, and then the Street Profits just talk non-stop over the top of the match, and then we go to a full screen shot of them, and then we cut back. I didn't know what was going on. And just on the point of that, just to cut away from the match to a full screen shot of two people who aren't even there doing commentary. Whew. We then go to a video package recapping the rematch from WrestleMania 3 that occurred on Saturday night's main event 33 years ago. And then we go to Hulk Hogan, who hypes Edge's chances, and Jimmy Hart's in the background just kind of mugging off a bit. And now it's time to go to the triple threat match for the Intercontinental title, pitting Sami Zayn and Apollo Crews against Big E. So Zayn leaves the ring immediately, leaving Crews and E to go at it with one another, and he just pops in and out like a hyena just to sort of get attacks in and sort of have his little bit and then escape so he doesn't get into any danger. E holds firm though, even after a trio of suplexes from Crews. Sami drags Big E to the floor, who then gets wiped out by a diving Apollo after Big E's already taken care of Sami. Apollo then hits a moonsault off the apron. Sami jumps back in. It's a little bit wild, this one. When we come back, Sami is just grinding Big E down and fighting Crews off as best he can, but he's ultimately dumped to the floor. E and Crews then start trading power plays. Sami jumps back in and tries to get involved, but E plants both of them, lines them up, and hits them both with a splash at the same time. Crews and Big E then go back and forth, trading positions on the outside, with Crews even trying to just grab a quick cheeky pin off of Big E's hard work grinding Sami down. E then returns to the ring to take care of both guys, but he runs straight into a knee from Sami. He's driven into the corner, and then Sami connects with the haluva kick. E looks done. E looks absolutely cooked. Goes down 1, 2, 2.9. Crews just wrenches Sami out of the ring. It was such a good near fall. Crews then just grabs hold of Sami and absolutely launches him into the timekeeper area, just straight up, just and away he goes. But given that they've been going back and forward on the outside, Big E has had some time to recoup in the ring, hits the big ending the second that Crews gets back in. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to give this one a B+, and it didn't really feel like we were going to have a new Intercontinental Champion tonight, but you can never really tell, can you, when it's a TV title defense? And as the match progressed and as the near falls got closer and closer each time, and things like Apollo Crews' perfect timing just pulling Sami out of the ring before launching him into the timekeeper area, there were moments where I genuinely believed that E was dropping this belt. I rooted for each of these guys at different points of the match. It was just lush, and I can't wait to see what more waits for us in this sort of trio feud, because Crews left angry as well. That's something to note. Crews sort of looked a bit ticked off before he headed to the back, just kind of staring at Big E as Big E's posing, shaking his head, that kind of thing. Bit annoyed at himself, it looked like. And finally, we go to the ring for Edge's decision, and down he comes. He says that he'd been dreaming about coming home for the longest time, dreaming of winning a Rumble again, dreaming of main eventing WrestleMania again, but the problem is, he now that he's done that, there's so much more he's got to deal with. Like, who does he choose? Does he choose Drew? Does he choose Balor? Or does he choose choose Roman? He says that everybody seems to give him a different answer. Family, friends, even a random guy he met on the street. Nobody could sort of be in agreement about who he should choose. And then out comes Roman, Jay, and Paul. Edge then laughs at Roman for feeling that he needed to bring backup. And Roman's like, look, they won't do anything unless I tell them. Don't you worry about that. And Edge is like, well, of course, he's here, which, pointing at Jay's like, Jay's here, which means I'm already in your head. I'm already, getting under your skin. And so Roman's like, Jay, go wait by the bus. I'll see you in a bit. And Heyman gets out of the ring and stands on the apron. So right now in the ring, it's just Edge and Roman. Roman then demands acknowledgement from Edge. Acknowledgement as tribal chief, which, in this case is acknowledgement as the person that Edge wants to face at Mania. Because if Edge chooses Roman, that means that Roman is the biggest champion. Roman is the main event because, the winner of the Royal Rumble goes on to the main event of WrestleMania. Instead, Edge just looks at Roman and says nothing. He lowers the microphone and just looks at him before stepping back. And as he steps back, the camera cuts back to Roman, and behind him is Kevin Owens. Owens beats him down and then just walks off as we go off air. Now, unfortunately, nothing happened here. Nothing. So this gets a C. Edge said some things, Roman said some things, and unfortunately we're no further along than we were at the top of the show. However, despite the fact it was so short, Roman was solid here. Edge just looked like he was back into that, playing mind games mindset, and Owens turning up means that this feud isn't quite as done as Roman had hoped. But in terms of an overall grade for SmackDown this week, I'm gonna give it a B, I think. It was a fairly strong week. It was not as strong as some of the weeks we've had recently, but it can't always be at 100 miles an hour. We need peaks and troughs, and this is a fallout show from a pay-per-view event, and one of the biggest pay-per-view events the company produces, of course, so there's going to be a lot of recap. There's going to be sort of, just a bit more bump going on. There was a little bit more character development than it looked at a base level as well. I'm particularly interested in finding out a little bit more about this Dominic-Ray scenario, whether Dominic knew that Ray helped him win there. And I'd just like to say well done to SmackDown on going 2 for 2 on just teasing Rumble, winner announcements for WrestleMania and just not following through with them. But anyway, that has been graded for this week's SmackDown. What did you guys think of the show? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, stay safe and I'll see you soon.